Teresa. Welcome everybody. How you feeling? What do you think about the wonderful art? Well, you know, you are now going to experience Jamaica in the house. Not just Jamaica, but spiritual Jamaica in the house, in this church, in this sacred place. You would notice that as you stepped in today, the first piece of art you saw was a mosaic of St. Stephen's, and thus the church is named St. Stephen's. And that wonderful mosaic reminds us that churches and art have always gone together. Art is important in churches. And so it is right that we thank this church and vicar for having us here, for exhibiting such wonderful Jamaican art. And it's interesting that even with that mosaic, the choice of material for St. Stephen, stones, small stones. And what an irony, because we remember how St. Stephen's was martyred. And then as you come in, you'll be forgiven to think that the art here is a part of the general theme of the original intent of this church, because it just so blends in. But actually what you're seeing here is art that we have to be thankful to all the artists in Jamaica who labored with their talent and their creativity to produce these wonderful works of art, but not just to produce the work of art, but to make life easier for Teresa by sending up the art, and Teresa did an amazing job in curating this wonderful show. So if I can just say a few words about some of what we're seeing here. You will wonder when you look at Sean Reed's work over there, the nature of Christ, lessons, if Jerusalem has been transferred to Jamaica, because there on the hill in the Blue Mountains you see a cross, Golgotha, and you see that the nature of Christ and his teaching is to be appropriated and adopted in every culture and every religion across the world. And you see the import of the word, that the word shall go to the very ends of the world. This whole gospel, this thing of the good news, this thing of love. And then picking it up, you will see Mabusha Dennis in Sunday is Coming, number 1 and 2. Those lovely women dressed in white, the 3 women. And it's the same 3 women, maybe a different Sunday. They're choosing to go to a different church. They're not just sticking to the same church. They're visiting one church one Sunday, maybe another church another Sunday, keeping consistent the white outfits. The one who is carrying the flowers is always carrying the flowers. You know, but they're hanging around and they're communing with one with another, and maybe inviting that other woman near to the rooster to the church. Then we move from painting to photography, because photography is a part of the show. And you have the wonderful color photography of Leslie Ann Belnavis, who's using color cut photography, but showing us some contrast here with the black and the whites, the dark and the whites, and also even in the content, eyes wide and shut. So you get these contrasts. But Sarita Mullins chooses to do a different thing with her photographs over here. She has one in black and white and one in color, and the one in black and white exposes us to the ankh, which comes from Africa, which actually even predates the cross as a salvific symbol. And she has this wonderful lady over here, almost in a prayerful mood. And here she is in her ankh. And then over here you have the Rastafarians playing their drums, and the background is so dark, and it reminds us of church art, because in some of the church art you even see here, you see the dark backgrounds with the saints kind of shining out of the dark background. And then moving from the art back to photography, you see these amazing little paintings over here by Alicia Lisa Brown. And you see these saints, these young saints. And it challenges our notions of sainthood. We think somebody have to live a very long life, you know, and they're normally males, and they're normally white. But here you see black young girls who are sainted. And it's amazing that of all the struggles for freedom in the world, black young girls have always been a part of it, but written out of history. written out of history, even in the civil rights movement in America. We give credit to the great orators of that time, but black girls agitated and protested in that struggle. And so Alicia is reminding us that when we're talking about sainthood, we should be diverse. And then we come to some sculpture. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we had the amazing artist now, this is Edna Manley, who has done so many amazing and wonderful paintings. But we couldn't give you Orpheus today, but we gave you a photograph showing you Edna's depiction of Orpheus. I wonder why Edna Manley chose to focus on Orpheus, because Orpheus was a legendary musician, poet and prophet of ancient Greek religion, with an ability to charm all living things, even stones, which reminds us of the true spirit of a Jamaican. Just think about Teresa, for example. This ability to charm. And so here she casts Orpheus in a Jamaican style image. And okay, we didn't get the three-dimensional, but if you want a three-dimensional sculpture, you can get it tonight because it is present here in the work of Laura Facey Cooper, who has her sculpture over here, small little maquette of a sculpture, but it's prayer. And when you look at that image and you look at your phone and you're about to send a text and you want to send a praying hand with your emoji, you wish you could find that image instead of the image we have on our phones now, because it's just so appropriate as a sort of an emoji of a prayer. And so we'll come back to her later because she's in the show again. Now, if you move further down that side, you will come across Carl Abrahams. And what a wonderful and delightful artist Carl Abraham is. He often kind of uses a cubist style in his painting. He has a lovely nude in the University of the West Indies of Jamaica, Mona Library. And it's just fantastic. And when you next go to Jamaica, visit the Mona Library, and you'll see students actually sitting, studying, preparing for exams with the most amazing work of art. That is how fortunate we are in Jamaica to have such wonderful artists that they're actually literally next to us on the wall as we study for an examination. That is just a beautiful work by Carl Abrahams. Moving on now to Marlon James. Not to be confused with the other Marlon James, the author, the Booker Prize winning author from Jamaica, wrote Brief History of Seven Killings. But no, Marlon James, the artist. Look at what he's done over here. Just so stunning. What a moment to capture. Somebody commented that they thought that was in England somewhere until they saw the trees. The architecture caused them to think they were in England. Because of course England and Jamaica are very related, share a lot of culture. Some good, some not so good. But here we have a moment captured. And what a significant moment. 3 nurses, trainee nurses actually, because the pink uniform suggests that when you're a full nurse in Jamaica you wear a white uniform, walking and captured right at that moment at the church with the insignia Gloria in Excelsis Deo. Translation, God is the highest. And the significance of this is that in Jamaica, in our culture, we associate healing both with a medical model. You go to the hospital sometimes if you're sick, but you also go to the church for prayers, for laying on of hands. So this picture actually depicts a kind of a healing because it was the agents of the medical profession with a backdrop of the church that often prays for people, and people actually get better from prayer. Marlon James then put another piece of his work almost diametrically across and related. What a beautiful combination of colors. Those pink and turquoise, and right in the middle you get the post office box. But in Jamaica, we've got to have multiple use of orifices. I mean, that particular orifice invites you almost to post a letter. But it's not just posting a letter, it is inviting you for a prayer request. Christ. So spirituality runs across the spectrum of Jamaica. You wouldn't expect a post office in this country to be asking you about a spiritual request. But if you turn up at a clinic in Jamaica, prior to people going in the clinic, you will see a prayer meeting being held. Because spirituality knows no bound. It accesses all areas in Jamaica. So moving back now to, what you might call a controversial piece. Philip Thomas is reminding us in his piece over here, celebrated Jamaican artist Philip Thomas. You see at the very center a bull, and you think about that bull, that golden calf that was being, like an idol, But right in front of the bull, he's reminding us that the bull is long gone. Nobody wants to worship a bull. But there is a reclining nude. And he's challenging these notions of what we idolize and what we, objectify today. And then there are some dogs in the front, and you might ask the question, who let the dogs out? And behind me is just one of the most amazing pieces by Greg Bailey, reminding us of that story with Abraham, who was asked to sacrifice his only son, and willingly did it. And in that story, Abraham seemed to be the star, but the artist here, Greg Bailey, is reminding us that Isaac needs to have some attention too. Isaac needs to have a little bit of a mention in this story, because here Isaac willingly lays himself out to be sacrificed in obedience to God. And this time we don't have a sword, but we have machetes in Jamaica. As one man was reminded when he brought a machete to America long ago in a former administration. They said, why you bring the machete? He said, to chop bush. They made an accident, they thought he was talking about the president. But anyway, that's another story. But machetes is what we use. And then now we come to Laura Facey again. What an amazing piece of work. And again, you listen to people as they talk about artwork and you gather such insights. Because what I overheard somebody say is that they thought this piece of work was actually the central piece of art of the church. Because she saw the gold and the reds matching up with the gold and the reds over there. And so she felt that this was a part of the work, and it just shows how art has its place. And so Laura, when she was doing this, and the original of this is a frieze in wood, and using these images, and then came across, how funny, art evolves, it doesn't just stop there, came across these amazing mahogany pods, and decided, because they'll have the same shape, to paint them in the gold and the red to have as a part of the art. So today you're actually seeing a world premiere, because this is the first time this piece of work has been exhibited with this additional piece in terms of its installation. And then finally we come to Christopher Lawrence, who gives us the Redeemer. And what a beautiful and magnificent piece of work. I mean, it is no surprise that they use it as the cover of the catalog, because when you look at it, you ask yourself the question, has there been a truer image? Has there been a truer reflection of Christ? You see the Redeemer in that picture. And if you travel to to Ethiopia and look at the ancient pictures that were drawn before European pictures, you see that kind of imagery and iconography. And so Jamaica will be influenced by Europe, also by Africa, and produce and give you something so spectacular and so amazing. So I want to just leave it there and to enjoy the rest of the show. And thank you for coming tonight, and be blessed. Thank you.